Hi there, Martin Stone here from Switch On Health, and thank you for joining us tonight for this free webinar on an introduction to an iridology course that one of our favourite tutors, Deanne Apostolou, who is a qualified herbalist and iridologist, among other things. She's very talented. She is here to present for us tonight because Deanne is running a 4-week course on iridology. So, in this presentation, you're going to learn a little bit about the details of Deanne's course and what it will cover. But look, even if you don't end up doing her course, there's still going to be some really good information here about iridology and some of the ways that Deanne combines iridology with some of her other tools, such as, of course, herbal medicine and flower essences. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please do support us by clicking on that subscribe button, because the more subscribers we have, the more we can offer. And we look forward to offering you more. If you're watching this live, please do stick around until the end because, of course, we'll have a prize draw for you. We're actually going to be giving away 2 prizes tonight, and you will have the option to have a chat with myself and Deanne and ask any questions. If you're watching this on YouTube and you've got any questions, please do just pop them into the comments box below, and we promise we will get back to you. Now, without further ado, I shall hand over to Deanne. So thank you, Deanne. Take it away.
Thanks, Martin. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining. For those that are joining live and for those that are joining onto the recording, that's awesome. So, as Martin says, yes, I'm a herbalist and an iridologist, and I've been working in my own clinic for, oh gosh, around about almost 30 years now, which is a bit scary that it's come up that fast. I'm also one of the tutors for Switch On Health, which I just absolutely love because teaching is really a passion. And I've had people say to me, you really light up when you're talking about teaching and passing on information because it's wonderful to be able to pass on the knowledge and the wisdom from my clinic years and also then from my mentors and sort of further up the line. So we stand on the shoulders of giants. It's one of my favorite sayings because it's not just what I know, but it's what I've learned from my mentors and what they've learned from their mentors, and it just keeps going back. So you just keep building on all your knowledge. So for those that are online, well, and for those that are listening, it's you never stop learning. Okay. It's the sort of profession that there's constantly information to learn. There's always advancements. There's a lot of scientific research. They're really proving all the traditional stuff. The modern scientists, evidence-based scientists are proving all the traditional knowledge. It's like, oh yeah, why is chamomile really good for an upset tummy? Whereas it's something that we've always known for generations past. And now they're going, oh yeah, there's actually a scientific reason behind that. So I just love that when I call it science catches up. So one of my big passions is iridology. And through Estuary Learning, which is an organization that I'm a part of, that I'm one of the founding members for and I'm secretary for, Estuary Learning is a group of practitioners of all sorts. So it's herbalists, iridologists, body workers, naturopaths, homeopaths, kinesiologists, Bowen therapy, people that are just really interested in natural medicine. It's an organization where we just sort of help to further the knowledge and the education of anybody that's interested. So through Estuary Learning, I'm offering a course that's starting on Friday, the 19th. I was going to say today's Wednesday, but no, it's Friday, the 19th. We're starting a 4-week course. So 2 hours each session for those that are interested in how to use iridology within their clinic. Now, what iridology is, it's using the analysis of the iris, which is the colored part of the eye, to give you more information as to what's going on inside the body. So in a clinical setting, what I'm doing generally with somebody that's sitting across from me, but I do have a lot of online patients as well. So I'll ask them to send me a photo of their iris if they can. Taking a whole lot of case history, okay, asking for them, what is it that I can help you with? Basically, why are you sitting here? What help do you need with what's going on with you? And as I'm talking and I'm writing the notes down, I also have a book next to me that I'm writing down the different herbs of that I'm thinking as they're talking, and the bark flower essences as well. So I get this list, which more often than not ends up to be about only 6 or 8 herbs. It's really interesting because it's not like I stop thinking, but it's like you're prioritizing things and working out the primary and secondary functions of those herbs, and what is it that you can help this person with and what they've come to see you with. But then what I do is I do an iridology analysis. So it's not a diagnosis. We're not allowed to diagnose. It's an analysis, and the eyes are the window to the soul. So the eyes are telling you the colored part of your iris is showing different marks and different colors, and is showing you the different areas of your body that need a bit more nurturing and a bit more attention. And more often than not, it's going to correlate with the symptoms that somebody's presenting with. So, for those that I don't know where everybody's at, if you're up to studying Nat 102, that's where we talk about iridology and bark flower essences. And there's only 2 lessons on it, so it's just a real introduction to iridology. So I always encourage people, if you're interested in it, this is just like a tiny morsel of information, and you really need to go and find courses that you can do that are further going to help you to have the skills and the confidence of how to use it in clinical practice. Which then, of course, then has led me to formulating a course and writing a course. So it's just really fascinating what the iris can tell you. So it's, when I don't know, I notice it, I'm sure Martin probably notices it. When you see these ads on TV and they show you this big iris and they're going, oh, basically trying to say, look, it's what you can see, or they're trying to show this beautiful blue eye or something. And I'm, peering up to the TV going, oh, that person's got a lot of issues with their kidneys, or that person's got a lot of issues, they're an overthinker. Um, so I find that really fascinating whenever I see photos of irises being used in promos or advertising. In fact, something else that I've seen overseas, and I saw it at the Yamundi markets when I was recently up in Southeast Queensland. What they're doing is they're actually taking photo of someone's iris and they're putting it into jewelry. So, and they were advertising it like, oh yeah, you can wear your partner's eye, as a necklace, or as a ring or earrings, or however they wanted to make it. But they were taking photos of the iris and making it as jewelry, which I find really fascinating because it's like, oh, look, there's all these issues with their iris, and it's not something that I would think about as using for a piece of jewelry, because there's a whole lot of stuff going on in there that may be amazing, and it all is amazing, let me say, but there's stuff that needs to be looked after. Like, I'm going to look at that and go, oh, that person's really constipated, or that person's got a lot of issues with loose bowel, or they've got a lot of adrenal fatigue, or whatever it is. So I actually find that quite funny because I've been looking in irises for, well, over 30 years, if you look at the study that I've been doing. So with the iridology, you basically, believe it or not, there's only 2 colors of irises. There's brown and there's blue and green. What the brown eye is where there's a whole lot of extra pigment that's come through melanin. So it's like the same when somebody's got darker skin, there's a whole lot of pigment from melanin production that changes the color of the iris. So, which I find really fascinating, because then when you start looking at iridology, we actually classify it as you've got a blue lymphatic or a green lymphatic or a mixed biliary or a hematogenous iris, or you can see where there's an orange overlay, so they've got pancreas issues, or there's a yellow overlay and they've got kidney issues, or there's a white overlay and they've got a lot of inflammation going on in their body. So what the course is going to do is it's going to take you through a brief history. We're going to look at different charts because there's not just one way to analyze an iris. Iridology has actually been around from the centuries ago. You know, they say that Hippocrates was using it, that ancient Egyptians were using it. They would look in somebody's iris and they'd be able to see what the health of the body is. And that's, way back then when they were just looking, they weren't using any magnifying um, uh, torches or anything at all. They were just looking in the eye, but they could see. We know that when you're having a good day, your eyes are bright, okay? And you feel like you look good. So you've got these bright eyes and they're exuding sort of a lot of health and vitality. And if you've been through a major illness or something like that, your eyes might sort of dull down and you feel terrible and you sort of sink down and you go inwards. So I guess they're the sort of things that they were looking at. But in modern day iridology, there's torches that we use. I've got what's called a 10x torch, but then I've times magnification, so it can get in really, really close, and you can really pinpoint different areas and different marks in the body that needs looking after. So we look at things like it can tell you about the health of the nervous system, the health of the bowel tissue. You can see a lot about adrenal health, about nervous system support. There's if someone's an overthinker, you can tell if somebody's very stoic. You can tell if somebody's really sort of laissez-faire and they let everything flow through them and they don't get too heated up about different things. There's all sorts of different things that you can see through the iris. It's just absolutely fascinating. What I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to share screen so I can sort of explain a little bit as I'm going. Sorry. Now, hopefully, what you can see is taken from the Switch on Health PowerPoints, and this is lesson 5 on iridology. So, what I look at, like I see this iris, and yes, there's some pretty colors there, right? So, but there's a lot of brown over this bowel area and over the nervous system. Okay. And then you can see this here which are issues around about the kidney, sorry, not the kidney, possible bowel pocket in there, possible kidney issue in here. Then you're looking at here that maybe you're looking at adrenal issues. There's another liver. If this is looking at the right iris, which I think it might be. I'm terrible with that
Yeah,
sort of
no,
stuff.
I'll just interrupt a little bit, Deanne. If you're pointing to things, we can't actually see your
Oh,
mouse on
can't
the
you? Can
screen.
you see it
Oh,
if
there we
I'm on
go.
here?
Yeah, yeah, we
Ah,
can see that there. Yep.
oh, great. Okay. So would this be the right iris? Yes. So I think it's the right one. So this is where I'm sort of looking at liver issues around here. Okay. And this is leg issues. Maybe there's been a leg injury, and if this is the right iris, which I think I'm right, this could be there's some issues. They've had something to do with their spine around this area or the muscles of the spine. They've had some sort of an injury. The area that's brown around here, that's your bowel area. And then this sort of very uneven circle, that's the area that relates to the nervous system. There's a whole lot of bowel pockets sort of happening in these sort of areas. And there's a major issue within the bowel there. So that's what I find absolutely fascinating about iridology is that it can show you all these bits and pieces that are going on in the iris. And so the other thing that we look at, or one of the first things that we look at, is the structure and the resilience of the eye. So you've got different resilience, let's say. So this one here, where all the fibers are really tightly bound together, this means that someone can deal with a lot through their life, right? So resilient. So still fibers that are really well put together, but they're just there's few more gaps between as opposed to this one, right? And then you've got moderately resilient and then mildly resilient. So the fibers are starting to separate a bit more. Now, nothing is good or bad in the iris, right? It doesn't mean that one constitution is better than the other one. What it's indicating is that this person might be very stoic. They can run on maybe 4 or 5 hours sleep, which is not really recommended anyway. They could deplete themselves of nutrients. Again, not really recommended. Whereas this person needs their 8 hours sleep, right? They need to make sure that they've nurtured themselves with good food all the time. So while this person can manage to deal with a whole lot more in the short term, the downside of that is that they could also just suddenly fall in a heap because they've overworked themselves to the bone, didn't get the warning signs, didn't listen to the warning signs of their body, and then they're down in a heap with some sort of a health condition or an autoimmune disease or heart issues even. Whereas this person is more or less say fair. It's like, oh yeah, she'll be right. It doesn't matter. Oh, no point stressing. Don't sweat the small stuff. So they can manage, they're not quite as, they may not be as focused and as stoic as somebody that's got a very resilient iris, but they're still going to be able to cope to a certain point with what's being thrown at them. But they'll have to make sure, and hopefully they will understand that they need good sleep, good nutrition. I mean, we all need good sleep, good nutrition, right? But the person with this sort of resiliency and constitution and texture in their iris is going to be able to put up with a lot more than this person will. So they know their limits, this person, whereas this person may not. So I hope that sort of makes a little bit of sense. So Iridology gives you a really good, insight into the sort of person that's in front of you, right? And this is why I like, even if I'm seeing patients that are online, I really like to see a photo of their iris, which is not an easy thing to do. But even if I just get a little bit of an idea of the fibers and the color, then it'll guide me, right? So through that consultation and through the iridology, again, I'm madly writing notes into my case taking and then still writing different herbs that I'm thinking of in my notebook on the side. And then I go, right, it's more important to look at what the iris is telling me than to go through every single little physical symptom that they've been telling me about. Because everybody's going to have lots of symptoms, right? But if someone's going to say, I'm really tired, your iris is going to be able to guide you whether that fatigue is from, let's say, maybe the respiratory system. They're not breathing well enough. They're not taking enough of deep breaths. They've got some asthma or bronchitis issues, or whether they've got nervous system issues. Is it an actual nervous system issue that they've got, or is it an adrenal issue that they've got? Or is there something in the bowel that's showing you that they're not absorbing all the nutrients out of their food? So your iridology is going to help you to be able to pinpoint um, and be more specific with your mix. And that's what I absolutely love about iridology. So then further on into the course, we're obviously then going to go right through the different colors that you get in the iris. And like I said, you've sort of got the browns, which is your hematogenous, you've got your mixed biliary, and then you've got your lymphatic. So what you've got with your lymphatic iris is generally blue iris. But then you've got what I call an overlay. So you could have the white covering over an iris. I'm just going to share my screen again. Oops, no, not that one. This one. There we go. So we've got a lymphatic iris here, okay, which is predominantly English, Scottish, Nordic, But then because the world is really spreading and there's a whole lot of people from all sorts of different ancestry getting together, then that's really changing the iris colors. But this is a blue lymphatic iris. But there's a a bit of a white overlay, right? If you could clean up this iris a bit, you'd probably find that it would be a much brighter blue, that it wouldn't necessarily have this white that's sitting on top. And the white then is a lot of inflammation generally in the body. It shows you that there's inflammation. So it guides you then again into your herbs that you're using and basically saying that, yes, okay, you need to move more, you need to drink more water, you need to have more alkalizing foods, watch the acidic foods, and that sort of thing. It also in here can show you, I'm hoping that you can see the difference. This area that relates to the stomach, just in there, just inside the pupil, or outside, sorry, is very grey. So that can indicate there's a few issues with digestive enzymes. So they're not breaking their food down properly, which then can interfere with the absorption of the nutrients. If we know that if you don't have enough of your enzymes sort of rushing into the stomach area to break the food down, then you're not going to be able to have that food broken down to a type of a mulch or a bolus, let's say, where you can actually absorb the nutrients out of that. So the iridology can show you if somebody's got digestive issues. And then when you look at the hematogenous or hematogenic, which is your brown, right? So this person is likely to have more blood circulation issues and more liver issues, and again, nutrient absorption issues. But this here, so you've really got to look at there can be more of a creamy overlay. And this person here has got some issues with their circulation because you can see that there's not a defined outline. So this is all a bit of a white overlay over the top here. And then a bit bluey. I'm hoping that you can sort of see that and understand that from up there. So there's not enough circulation from a lack of movement, but they also need to move to be able to get that circulation going so they can clear the toxins out of the body. And then you can also see here that there's some issues with the bowel. You know, it's a little bit darker up here than it is around here. And I don't think that's just a lighting issue. That's a bit darker. So that can show that there's more toxins accumulating in the transverse colon because that's where the transverse colon shows on the iris. This is a mixed biliary iris, so which is a real combination of it's what we call sort of hazel or light brown, which is really a mixture of your blue and your brown. And this iris here, mixed biliary, shows that there's a lot more liver issues and there's pancreatic enzymes and gallbladder. So you know that you need to look after those particular organs more. They're the organs that need more nurturing than say, you know, you probably don't really need to look after gallbladder as much in a lymphatic iris unless they've got, excuse me, an indication, a little marking in the gallbladder area. Okay, so there's a bit of brown toxins around the bowel here as well that's then leaking out into the tissues. Circulation isn't too bad, but it's still a little bit bluing along here. And this could indicate that somebody gets a lot of headaches. There's a bit of bluing sort of over that side as well. So as soon as I see this, and I tend to refer to irises using herbs and flower essences as the noun, sort of like, oh, this is a skullcap iris, because they've got a bit of a skullcap, which is your typical, what your skullcap herb is used for, is for somebody that needs peripheral circulation, for somebody that has a lot of headaches. They need some nervous system support with your vitamin Bs. So this would be a skullcap. So in my iridology notes, I write, yep, skullcap over left eye, better on the right, worse on the left, whatever it is. But also, if you've got this sort of skull cap and a bluing around the outer edges, then that can also be a respiratory issue as well, which you would ask then the qualifying questions. Do you have asthma? Did you have croup as a baby? Did you have a lot of asthma as a child? Do you only get asthma when you've had a virus or do you get a bad cough? The iridology shows you or can indicate the questions that you need to ask. If you were to say to somebody, okay, I can see a little marking up here in the neck area because that's a bit of pressure being put on the neck area because that area relates to the neck. Do you have a sore neck? Have you had any whiplash injuries? And they go, oh no, my neck's fine. Then it's like, okay, you don't really need to worry about it too much. But if somebody then says, oh my God, yes, I've had whiplash and I get terrible headaches and I need to have a constant massage or whatever it is, then that marking there, especially with that line through it down there, is an indicator that you need to look after this spot for this person because that needs nurturing, right? That's a spot that's sort of standing out to you. Okay. And then there's all these sort of little drug spots and sorers, and that goes deeper into a whole lot more of iridology. Again, they're an indicator for the area that needs looking after. Um, I often, I can probably stop sharing there, I think. Yeah, so I often have had the experience that I will be talking to someone, say, you've been through like maybe 30 minutes of questioning within a consultation. You get to the iris, you've got your torch up with against somebody's iris, and you're talking to them and you're going, there's a little marking over your spine. Have you ever had a fall or an injury? And like, let's say that something is right on their coccyx. Have you fallen off a horse? Have you fallen off a wall as a kid? What was it? There's anything happened? And they'll go, oh yeah, I did. When I was 7 years old, I fell off a horse. And so it's that amazing that you can sort of pick up the areas and they go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Or a bump on the head even, there's something in the head area. Have you ever had a major concussion or a major head injury or something like that? So it's really quite fascinating that it can indicate all those sort of little areas and it's showing you the questions that you need to ask. And if you say to somebody, do you have asthma now? And when you're seeing signs in the lungs and they go, no, but I used to, so again, it's giving you that indication that this is an area that, okay, it's not an issue now, but it was an issue in the past. Is it giving them any symptoms right now? And they go, no, I'm fine. Then you don't need to worry about including herbs in the mix for that if that's not in their list of priorities. So I'm hoping that all makes sense. Um, I then have within a consultation, so like I said, I've got the two torches, one that's sort of if I've got an area that I can't sort of really see well enough, or I want to see right in, because you can see with another torch that I've got, you can see right in and see what the fibers are doing underneath. And it gives you an idea of if there's a deep damage to the tissues or if there's healing lines coming up across over one of the markings that you see. So some of the markings we call lesions, and they're sort of like an olive shape or an oval shape. Some of them can be what we call an open lesion or a closed lesion or a crypt. The crypts are the ones that are really dark and go really deep. And it's just that the damage to those fibers of the iris are so deep and it's a real old injury, or it could even be an ancestral thing that they say iridology can go back 3 generations. So it could be something that has happened to a parent or a grandparent, and that weakness is still showing in the iris. And as long as that's not causing a presenting symptom for them, then you don't need to worry about it. But if it's like, no, you're telling me that you've got some liver or gallbladder issues, and there was, liver cirrhosis in the family 2 or 3 generations ago, and your liver's still showing something, then you're going to look after the liver and you're going to recommend St. Mary's thistle or a dandelion or a schisandra or a holy basil or whatever it is that is going to encompass your whole treatment. And then you're probably going to recommend, if they say it's not an issue for me and they don't have any other markings, then I might just recommend dandelion tea because that's going to look after the liver as well as give you a whole lot of other benefits as well. Um, so the other thing that's important to ask is when you see something around that, when I mentioned sort of the neck area, that can also indicate tension in that area. Your iris works on a map. Okay, so I am actually going to share screen again because I'm going to show you some of the iridology maps. Because within iridology, this is how we teach you to analyze the iris. And oh no, sorry, I've just shared the wrong one. Why did that go that way? Let me see if I can do that properly. I wanted to share this one. Oh, I know why, possibly. Sorry, my tech skills aren't awesome. I want to share that one, and it's going to go back to that one. I'll work that out in a second. So if I do that, and let's try again. Sorry, guys. I'm an iridologist. My tech skills aren't great. It's still not bringing me up what I want it to bring up. So let me just break that down again. And I'm going to try one more time and see if I can get it right. And I will go here and here, and let's see if that works right. This should work now. Is that sharing? No, not yet. Let's
No,
go
nothing
again.
sharing, Deanne.
Here we go. I think I've got it right now. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, okay, so I can't show you the iris map, which is really annoying. I don't understand what I'm
Is there one that I
doing.
can bring up for you, Deanne?
Probably.
Which one is it? Which one do you want? Is it
Um,
from our content?
yes. Yeah. From the it's showing that I'm oh no, we don't want to see that. Oh, look, can you see that now? No, you're not seeing the
I think we're just seeing that sort of coloured one that you had before. Um,
I want to share the iridology chart just to show you what I teach you to. Somebody needs to teach me how to do technical stuff. So can you now see can you see an iridology chart on your screen? No.
yeah, I don't know if it's the one you want us to see.
The colored one?
Yeah,
Iridology. Oh, you can see that. Oh, I don't know
yeah.
why it's not.
It's
Okay.
got, this chart is an updated version of
There
Dr.
we
Bernard
go.
Jensen's chart. That's a look.
Okay. So I was doing it all along. All right, good. It's confusing me. All right, so I show you how to read this chart. I clearly need technology lessons, but this is how to understand an iridology chart. So there are actually quite a few different charts. There's quite a few different people that have different ways of teaching iridology. Okay, so we've got Bernard Jensen, who is sort of what a lot of Australian iridologists tend to follow. And then his daughter-in-law, Ellen Tart Jensen, has updated his chart. So when you put what I do with my chart is I still use a chart because I can't know this off by heart. And I put it in front of the person, in front of my patient or client, and I make sure that I'm reading their right eye and their left eye as it is in front of them. So I'm not mixing up what iris that I'm looking at and what chart I'm looking at, right? So I'm going to look at the their eye that's diagonally opposite me for there, and that's their left iris, and then I'm analyzing that. So you can see here on the chart, this area relates to the spine. Then you've got your thyroid, and that's in both irises, of course. So your irises are a bit different. You've got sort of liver and pancreas on both sides, but you've got them on different areas. So, you've got your lungs over here and they're over on the outside. You've got heart on both sides, of course, and then you've got kidneys. They're just sort of mirrored to the body. Some people sort of say that no, the liver doesn't show in the left iris, but then others do. So it's a matter of sort of, again, asking the questions, seeing if they've got presenting symptoms of anything, and then trying to work out what areas that you need to look after. And you're doing this, so you obviously need to apply your knowledge of ANAT and phys, and you need to apply your knowledge of your herbal medicine or your supplements, depending on what you're going to be recommending. Um, so yeah, you've got liver here, you've got gallbladder, and then you've got pancreas in about three or four. Oh, wrong one. Okay, let's go back the other way. And there we go. Um, Pancreas in sort of all these areas in your four different points. Transverse colon up there, you've got your small intestine round here, and then your ascending colon on this side, and then, of course, your descending colon on the left, right? And you've got areas, your solar plexus is always a good one because your solar plexus, if I see a marking in that solar plexus area, and it sort of doesn't look like a bowel pocket, and it's sort of not sort of further over into bronchioles, maybe impinging on the lungs, you're going to say, just touch what I often say, where your solar plexus, and everyone can do that now as a little exercise. Your solar plexus, right, is where the ribs join. How deep in there or can you get your fingers? And is it hurting? And that's sort of showing a lot of stress, right? If your solar plexus feels like it's crunched up like a fist, then you need to be able to learn to breathe and relax your solar plexus because, right, that's our joy point. That's our yellow when you're looking at your chakras, your solar plexus chakras, and that should be nice and relaxed so you can sort of dig in with a couple of fingers, knuckles, and it won't hurt like mine. Um, so yeah, that's always an interesting little thing. So you go, oh yeah, it's your solar, how's your solar plexus? How's your joy of life? Um, and then of course with sort of sometimes with questions like that, are you happy? Are you content in life? Of course, it can sort of bring on tears, and then you're madly, trying to support them and writing down, oh, that person needs gentian in bark flowers, or that person needs chamomile, depending on what it is that you're linking it to or that's coming for you and you're writing down in your book to put into their mix. Um, then of course you've got your bladder area and then your reproductive areas. So it's not possible to sort of, some people go, oh, can you tell if somebody's pregnant? And it's like, well, no, you can't tell if somebody's pregnant. You can't tell when somebody's got a period. You can't tell if someone's got sort of normal issues, right? Those things are normal, they're not a condition. You could, however, tell if somebody has fibroids or polycystic ovaries, but not actually naming it as such. But the area that's relating to the ovaries is going to be enlarged or have a lot of white fibers around it or be really tight or have a lesion in it or something like that. Same thing if there's a prostate enlargement, that area is going to show some sign that it needs some attention. And then if you were to say to somebody, oh, the prostate area, to a male, obviously, the prostate area is looking a bit irritated. Do you have any prostate issues? Is there urgency? Is there frequency? Are there any issues like that going on? And is there anything that we need to address. And they may go, no, it's fine. More often than not, I will probably put something in there anyway, because if they're in their maybe 50s to 60s, you want to try and maybe catch that before it becomes a real issue. But that's probably one of the it depends on how major the sign is, right? If there's a big marking or an intense marking, shall we say, around the kidneys or the adrenals, then I might sort of put something in there for that as a preventive measure anyway. But it's probably really only those couple of things that you're going to look at preventive. Otherwise, you're using your iridology analysis to give you an idea of what is it that needs to be looked after in the body, needs to be nurtured. So within the course that I'm presenting, we're going to be going right through this with the idea that you were then going to be able to go and include this in your clinical practice. Now, I'm conscious of time. It's already 7:15. And we've got a few things in the chat. I'm happy to open up. Yeah, Martin, yours is as tight as a drum. Is that your solar plexus? Happy to open up to any questions from anybody. If there's anything that anybody would like to go over.
Thanks, Deanne. So, look, everybody, what we normally do is switch off the recording before we open it up for questions. But based on the last couple of sessions, last couple of webinars we've done, we actually find that the Q&A is the best bit. So I'm going to leave the recording running for now. So please don't be shy if you would like to ask any questions. I think we'll include this recording in our content for Nat 102 because I think it will help people. We do sometimes get questions about iridology, and people say, "Oh, it would be easier to learn if we had somebody like Deanne explaining it." So hopefully you've all enjoyed it tonight. Um, any
No,
questions? Anybody?
you know what I have noticed in people finishing the or completing the assignments, Martin, is that they go, oh my God, I'm never going to get this. You know, this is so confusing. This is so hard. And my response is like, you're not meant to know it all, you know, and I know that one of the prerequisites is 100% for your exams, but that doesn't mean that you are going to then be able to go and use that in clinic. It's just the taster of then go, if you're interested in using it as a tool for analysis, then go and learn more. And I'm just sort of teaching you the basics. It's not basically that you've got to be able to go and analyze an iris straight away. It's a sort of thing that, yes, you would need clinical practice with.
Yeah, excellent. We've got some great questions coming through here in the chat. Before you get onto them, Deanne, I was just going to follow up on what you said. You know, when we included iridology in our Nat 102 as part of our 4 qualifications, we really did include it as an introduction, you know, enough to get you started. You should, if you want to, be able to start practicing using it on your clients and just, you know, seeing what you can see, if I can say that. You know, you can start playing around with it. And the more you do it, the more irises you look at, you know, the more you will pick up, like naturally. But yeah, definitely what we include in our course, iridology can be an entire course by itself. So if you are really interested in it, definitely go and pursue further studies elsewhere in iridology. So Deanne, do you want to tackle a couple of these questions in the chat?
Yes. So yeah, Julie, thank you. What has been the most amazing thing you've seen in someone's iris? I think, okay, I'm going to mention two things. Firstly, I know I was sort of looking at someone's iris, and you know, I've got my torch, and I'm right up close, and I'm going, oh my goodness, there's a whole lot of squiggles. So okay, there's my torch, right? So it's magnifying, and it's got a light behind it, and you know you're pretty close with somebody, and you're looking in it. I'm going, there's all these squiggles down the bottom of this iris, like, and then I looked in the other one, and they were in there as well. And then I saw the outline of contact lenses. And I'm like, oh, because it's actually with an iridology torch, you can see like I guess it's a batch number or something that's actually written on the contact lens. And I'm looking at it going, oh my God, like what's going on with this person? So I thought that was really quite funny. Um, for a company that would hold these whole day sort of health like like a health sort of summit. I don't know, I can't remember what they called it, but they'd have these stations, and someone would go around. All their employees would go around and talk to somebody about nutrition, about herbs, and about they had me doing iridology. So I had no background information for them whatsoever. It was just doing iridology cold, and then asking them a few questions and giving them a few pointers that they could take away, like drink more water, you need dandelion, you need celery, a few little basic things like that. This one lady in her pupil was like a spider web, and it was sort of going across and down, not a complete spider web, but these lines going across the pupil and then down the other way and then sort of right across back the other way. And I was absolutely fascinated by it. And I had never seen that before. And I went back to my mentor. I didn't say anything about it to this lady because I didn't know what it was. And I went back to my mentor and I was like, what did that mean? And she's going, oh, nervous system. She's had some major damage with the nervous system somewhere. Like it's not, even though it was on the pupil. And I think I may have asked, have you had your eyes checked lately? Because I was a bit worried that it was like like a retina marking or something, like a major vision issue. But she said, no, it's more than likely because she said the woman that had this said she didn't have any. She'd recently had her eyes looked at, no problems. And so my mentor was saying it's more than likely a nervous system thing. So it's either an inherited thing or she's had a major injury to her nervous system somewhere um, along the line. So I thought that was really fascinating. How quick does the iris change? So really interesting, good question. Thank you, Karina, because there are some schools of thought around iridology that your iris doesn't change. I'm of the school of thought that yes, of course it does. Otherwise, what are you doing iridology for and what are you doing herbal medicine for, right? You want to see a change in the iris, but it doesn't happen overnight, but it will happen, right? So generally, 6 to 12 months at the earliest. But what you should start to see is a brightening of the color. So that white overlay that I spoke about, or the brown overlay that I spoke about, they're going to be less intense. And you're going to find that slowly that color is going to clear from the outside inwards on the iris. So you're going to find that like the outside of the iris is going to show more green or months. And then you may be able to start to see some of the lines that indicate a lot of stress or the cramp rings. They start to lessen off and they get a little bit more relaxed. And the eye doesn't look like it's doing this, but it's a little bit more relaxed. And you can see healing lines in some of the lesions. The healing lines, I think, takes a long time for those to show, like, it could be 5 years or something, which is why these days I'm really glad that I've got a camera. It's actually an optometrist little camera that I connect to my phone so I can take a photo when somebody comes to see me the first time. And then 6 or 12 months later, I'm taking another photo. And it's not just my own vision of going, oh, yeah, that looks much brighter, because you can actually then compare the photos. Um, So yes, you use a torch, you use the iris maps, of course. A torch and a map is essential. The camera isn't essential, but yes, you need a torch. And for this course, it's amazing how prices changed. I think I paid like at least $80 for my iris torch, whereas these are now selling for $40 from Ironic. That's the brand name. Um, so yeah, and you can practice on your your family's irises. Mine are really sick of that, especially when I got my new camera. Um, yes, Nikki, it is an amazing. modality. It's just incredible. Um, if someone is healing from an issue, yes, that will still show in the iris that there has been an issue in the past. It will never, it's like scar tissue, I guess. It will sort of be there. Um, well, thanks, Leanne. And okay, so Julie says, I knew someone who had a pie piece missing in the pupil. Yes. Their iris filled this space. Would be interesting to know what those areas might relate to. So it would really depend on um, where that area is in the map of the iris. And so if it's missing in the pupil, yes, you can find an eye injury will show with your iris, obviously, in the iris. And it just means that if so let's say that that's, maybe looking at the lower spine, that's the area that's sort of like melted in, then you could find that there's going to be issues with the bowel in that area. They may have a very loose bowel tone. They may find that they get constipated or they get diarrhea, depending on what's going on. And if it's really pulling in from the iris, then it could be, like I said, if it's in the spinal area, then they may find that they've got lower back issues or a spine issue or something like that. So yes, that can be an issue. What I have noticed as well is when somebody's had eye surgery, is that they had, because I'm looking at the iris going, this is really weird. I haven't seen this before. And this was only earlier this year. There was like this hole right on the edge of the iris. And then when I looked again, it was right on the edge of the iris on the other side. And I said, have you had eye surgery? And they went, oh, yeah, last year. I had my cataracts done. And it's like, oh, okay. Right. So that's another indication that it's like, oh, right. Well, whereas they didn't, or maybe it wasn't cataracts, maybe they had something else done. But I had never seen that before in somebody's iris, even with knowing that people had had cataract surgery done. So you can't actually see cataracts when you're looking with your iridology torch. But I could see this marking, and because it was so, like, it was at 9 o'clock on both sides, it was like it had to be something like that. It was symmetrical, and your iris is generally not symmetrical. Um, And then you can see, so you can't see cataracts, but you can see a pterygium. So a pterygium is something that is sort of like part of the gel-like substance, and it starts to grow over the eye, and you can actually see that because it's this really weird sort of, looks like you could touch it and it would be jelly. Um, so you can see a pterygium growing over the iris. Sandy, is it worth doing the course when you're only in your first year of study? Um, If you haven't already done Nat 102, maybe not. And if you don't know your herbs yet, then maybe not. I won't always say no, say definite no, but you may get more out of it. Like, we probably will be offering it again. But you need to be able, there's going to be, I'll be talking a lot about different herbs for these sorts of issues. So if you're really keen to just take lots of notes, and you will have the recording forever, basically. Um, you're still going to benefit if you sort of went back to look at it. So yeah, I am, and I'm happy to answer that if you want to contact me separately, Sandy, and we can sort of have more of a chat around that one.
Fantastic. All right, everybody. I think what we'll do is we'll stop the recording now. And of course, we'll have a couple of prizes to give out. So I'll just tell each of you before I stop the recording. What's happened to me the last couple of times is that as soon as I stop the recording, my Zoom freaks out and I freeze for about a minute. So if you're all there wondering why I'm not moving or saying anything, I'm still here. It's just my computer freaking out, and I'll be with you soon. So look, if you're watching the recording of this, thank you for watching to the end, and learn more with Switch on Health.